How is the Belgium GP going to be? The cars are losing almost 5 seconds in a lap compared to last year due to energy starvation. Some drivers are going into the weekend with a disadvantage because of grid penalties, and some teams have brought in some minor upgrades as well. Who's going to win in Belgium? Who's going to struggle? What are my predictions? We'll see all of that in this video. Hey everyone, Anderson here. Welcome back to the channel. We have officially started the race weekend. FP1 and FP2 are already over. The biggest talking point in all of this has been the energy starvation of the cars. We found out that the cars are more than 5 seconds slower than last year. The main reason for this, or at least 3.5 out of the 5.4 seconds, have been lost in the second sector alone. The second sector starts at the end of the Camel Straight. So if the car was fully deploying through the straight, it wouldn't have enough electrical power left for the second sector. So to avoid that, the cars are super clipping in the straight. And then through the second sector, the car not only needs energy for the medium speed corners, but also they need to exit the sector with enough battery for the next sector because it has 2 more straight mode zones. So there is a lot of lifting and coasting and harvesting in the second sector, which is leading to the loss in speed. It also means the corners are not taken aggressively enough. This means we will end up seeing a huge drop in speed and time in these corners. I think it will be easier for me to just show you the graphs and compare FP2's top performer Kimi Antonelli's lap with last year's Lando Norris's qualifying lap. As you see through Aruj, this year's car actually is faster, but then the energy conservation kicks in and it literally makes the car lose speed. Just look at how drastic the fall towards the braking zone of the Camel Straight is. Now if you look at the sector 2, it looks even worse. Every corner the car is slower. The turns 10 to 14 just look depressing. So if we see overall, right, the entire graph from a big picture, the delta in sector 1 seems to be okay. It has remained a little up and down, but it is fine. Now sector 2, the gap starts to widen, and in every corner, in every portion of the track, the gap is being widened. And in sector 3, yes, the graph seems to plateau. Sector 3 is not as worse as sector 2. So yes, this is the reality of the current regulations on the traditional circuits, especially because the shortfalls or the problems of the current regulations get amplified in these traditional circuits. But among all of these problems, there are a couple of positive news, more like hopeful, wishful thinking, I would say, that we can take away. Firstly, when we moved away from the previous generation of engines towards the hybrid era as well, the drop in speed and lap times were massive. But look what happened after a few years, right? Mercedes were dominating and they were breaking all sorts of speed records, and eventually during the ground effect era, pretty much every old record in terms of speed ended up getting broken. In this season, teams are still learning how to do engine mapping on every circuit, and they are practically getting data as we speak, right? Every new circuit in this new regulation is brand new data for everyone. So this car and this regulations will definitely improve. Next year, we're also starting a journey towards 60-40 split instead of 50-50. So given that the regulations are also improving, yes, the speed deficit will not be there for too long. And also we are genuinely comparing a practice session with a qualifying session. Practice session, people definitely do a lot of race simulations and full fuel simulations and stuff like that. And the engine mode is a lot more higher. And for qualifying, definitely there will be a 2 mg drop in the overall battery power that is available for cars to use. So yes, there will be less clipping and it will be more about driving instead of conserving energy. I think the next generation of what Formula 1 geekiness stands for is all about strategizing in a given track where to harvest and where to conserve energy to get the best lap time. So yeah, that's the hopeful positive news. And we also started the weekend with the big news that Lando Norris will be getting a 10 place grid penalty, and he will be starting 10 grid places behind based off of his qualifying result. Why is that? So the modern F1 power units have so many small components, and every component can be replaced for a limited number of times in a season. For example, the ICE internal combustion unit can be replaced 4 times, MGUK 3 times, and so on and so forth. I've basically shown you a list of updates, current updates on how many units and how many components every team and every driver has used till the British GP. So Lando is replacing his 4th control electronic system, which puts him above the allowed 3 limit, right? Hence, he got the penalty. An interesting thing to note is that Isack Hadjar is also getting a penalty. Isaac's car is changing so many of their components. It is practically an entirely brand new power unit, 5th power unit, and he will definitely be starting from the back of the grid. Max Verstappen is also getting a bunch of new components, but with his limit being much under the maximum, he doesn't have to worry about penalties. And similar logic for Oscar Piastri as well, because even though his engines are also getting changed, Lando had many more failures earlier in the season, and because of that, he's on the higher side of the amount of components that are already used. Speaking of penalties, Ferrari almost got penalized. So for every session, there is a number of set of tires that is allocated for each team, and Pirelli gives these tires to the team, and once the session is done and the tires are used, they have to give the set back to Pirelli. Ferrari electronically mentioned, which means they updated in their ERP systems or whatever that the tires are returned, but they did not physically return the tires. Now, both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton were called to the Stewards office, and after a bit of investigation, it is realized that they just basically forgot, and it was like a missed thought from Ferrari side of things. So instead of getting a grid place penalty, which could be harsh, they have been given a warning and a fine of £5,000 each. Esteban Ocon arrived too late to the press conference, and he was also fined £5,000. Fines and suspension work really differently in Formula 1, so the way things are worded might sound confusing, especially for Indians like us, because for us, when somebody is suspended, they are basically removed from the job, right? But here is how penalties in Formula 1 gets worded, right? In Esteban Ocon's case, he has been fined £5,000 with a suspension for 12 months. What does that mean? In the next 12 months, if Esteban Ocon does not violate the same rule, the fine he doesn't have to pay. The £5,000 fine will be revoked or suspended, right? He doesn't have to pay the fine if he behaves in the next 12 months. But if he comes to a press conference late one more time, he will have to pay the fine. That's why the word suspension means it is not the driver getting suspended, it is the fine getting suspended. Now we have to talk about the ongoing rear wing saga. From the last time we spoke on the matter 3 days ago, a lot has happened. On the other hand, Red Bull also have decided to ditch their dangerous and life-threatening rear wing and go back to a pre-Miami spec wing. And suddenly Max Verstappen is fastest in FP1 and he's in the top 3 in FP2. Coincidence? Yes, it absolutely is. Let's not read too much into free practice results and join the hype train. We are so back and all of that. I think at this point, most of you are confused if I am a Red Bull fan or a Tifosi. Speaking of Tifosi and all the noise that we made last week about Ferrari bringing in a new and even more aggressive and upgraded wing for Spa, sadly it is not coming. There has been production issues, factory delays, and the wing is not getting introduced this weekend, which brings me to the topic of all the upgrades that teams have brought, and Ferrari have not brought any upgrades at all to Spa. They are one of the very few teams who have not brought anything new. McLaren have brought a new low drag circuit specific wing for Spa. Mercedes have a rear and front updated wing. Williams have a new floor body and some cooling ducts for their brakes. Racing Bulls, I think, have the biggest upgrades of them all. They have new air intakes, they have body cover and wings. Haas and Audi also have upgrades to their rear wings. Some of these upgrades are very track specific, which means it is only going to exist for Spa. Considering Spa has 5 straight mode zones, right? That means there are 5 zones where the drag has to be as low as possible to get the most speed, right? Usually it is 2 straight mode zones or 3 straight mode zones, but since the wings are opening and closing so often in this circuit, I think teams are all preferring a low drag rear wing just to make the most out of all the straight zones available. But in all of these upgrade news, here is what I find the most interesting of all the upgrade news, okay? This is the Racing Bulls, okay? Racing Bulls had an upgrade coming for Spa, but it was only for one car. That's how it is usually when it comes to manufacturing stuff. One car upgrades get ready first, and the first driver or whoever is in championship contention or leading the championship or ahead of the two drivers, right? They get the preferential treatment, and that's how it is. They get the upgrades first. In this case, apparently suggested that we wait out Spa and get upgrades at the same time for both of these cars. And literally the whole team looked at him with as if he has said something outrageous. Obviously, if you are a competitive racing driver, you should demand upgrades for your car, right? But the gap between Arvid and Liam is not that significant anyway. So there were two options. They could either flip a coin and find out who gets the upgrade, or he made a bet saying whoever qualifies ahead in Silverstone gets upgrades for the next race. And look what happened. Arvid qualified P9 and Liam qualified P10, right? And because of that, this week Arvid's car has all the fresh upgrades. Imagine a rookie schooling you in qualifying and winning a bet and getting the upgrades in your car, especially when you are trying to hold on to your seat in Formula 1. I'm not saying Liam is a bad driver, but the odds are stacked against him at this point with all that is happening, all the rumors that is happening across the paddock. Arvid Lindblad is just a vibe. I'm a big fan of him for obvious reasons. And before we jump into the predictions, I do want to mention a couple of things. Chances are this video will be uploaded before qualifying and I am recording it on a Saturday morning. I only have observations from the FP1 and FP2 sessions that went on Friday. I do not have any clue on how the cars and drivers will do, what kind of changes will be made in FP3. The only thing I found interesting is between Kimi and Russell. Russell made a funny comparison of how driving the modern day Formula 1 car is equivalent to painting a Mona Lisa or some stuff like that. Like, even if you give the reference painting, you cannot paint it exactly like that. What is man on about? Like, what is this boy waffling? I think he's lost his head because England lost the World Cup or something like that. Because are you implying suddenly that Kimi Antonelli can now draw the Mona Lisa better than him? What is this comparison? Kimi has been miles ahead in terms of getting the most out of that Mercedes car. And earlier in the season, we were definitely sympathizing more with George because there was a bit of luck involved. But at this point, you can arguably say the bad luck has been hitting Kimi, and on paper, Kimi still seems to be doing a better job than Russell. And if George Russell is entering the weekend with this kind of a mindset and process, and I'm just genuinely baffled. I genuinely hope this is all some part of a mind game that George Russell is playing, because my God, it is so hard for me to defend this man at this point because he's getting schooled by a teenager. In Spa, I genuinely hope that he steps up and closes the gap to his teammate. He doesn't have to beat his teammate consistently. Just don't leave a 0.3 second gap between the two of you. Max, on the other hand, though, refused to say anything to the press. All one-word answers. Mind you, these are fully grown men, okay? Max Verstappen and George Russell waffling in the media. Formula 1 has become a reality TV show at this point because I genuinely enjoy this drama a lot more than Drive to Survive. On that lighter note, let's get into the predictions. As usual, I'm going to do 5 predictions and I'll try to be a little more unpredictable and out there, because otherwise what's the point, right? So here is my predictions. Charles Leclerc is going to be on pole. Yes, it is coming home to Ferrari again. Second prediction, Lewis is going to win. Why? Because Charles Leclerc might be on pole, but Lewis is going to get the better race start and he's going to just overtake and stay ahead. Max will be back on the podium. That's my third prediction. It would be really funny if the downgrade actually improved the car even more. Fourth prediction, I think Racing Bull's double point scoring streak will end. I don't want to jinx my boy Arvid too hard. So if this prediction goes wrong, it would imply Arvid is still in points, right? So yeah, no more Racing Bull's double points. And lastly, Cadillac first points. This is more hope than confidence. I just want them to score at least 1 point before the summer break at least. I really like Cadillac as a team. I know a lot of this is PR driven, but I heard Checo's interview in one of the podcasts that he showed up last week, and I did feel bad for him and the way he had been treated and the way how he grew up alone as a 14-year-old kid from Mexico moving to Europe and all of that. And I genuinely felt like, yeah, Cadillac should deserve some points. It would make me really happy if they get a point, right? So Yeah, that's it. That's my fifth prediction. And that's it for the weekend preview. Tune in on Monday because we'll be back with the race review. And a gentle reminder, if you're in Hyderabad, drop by to Rumor Lounge at 5:30 p.m. this Sunday, High Tech City. The entry is free. We can all have a bit of fun and watch the race together. All right? Hope you have a lovely Belgian GP weekend. Okay? See you soon. Peace.